Hello and welcome to Alive with Bhavna. Thank you for listening to today's show, which we will be discussing how to transition back into a normal life and what our new normal looks like in this ever-changing world that we're living in. For those of you that are not familiar with me or my show, my name is Bhavna Nagar. I work as a clinical psychologist for the last 18 years, both here in New Zealand and in South Africa, where I come from. I have my own business called Alive Psychology. It's based in Napier. Although my mindfulness practice started in South Africa, it really grew in New Zealand with me developing in the self-love approach and the loving kindness practice. And this resulted in me writing a book called Self-Love, The First Step. And basically this incorporates tools of mindfulness with psychological tools to give you the best of both worlds. So to start off today's talk with is just the same as my last talk, is recognizing and acknowledging that you survived lockdown. However you did it, whether you cried a lot or didn't cry or enjoyed it or whatever, you survived lockdown and you survived level 3, which for some of us was no different to lockdown. No matter how you coped in the last weeks, the fact that you're listening to the show today means that you've survived under exceptional circumstances. Surviving and coping looks different for all of us. It's not a race, it's not a game, it's not a challenge. You did the best you could do. So please don't compare yourself to others. And that's for now and for everything else, because that's one of the worst things we can do to ourselves, because it degrades us. Whenever we do a comparison, we end up feeling bad about ourselves. And generally, there's always people that are doing better than you and people that are doing worse than you. So it's no use comparing yourself. You're kind of always in the middle line anyway. And you're the only one with your personality, with your strengths, with your skills, with your talents, with your situation. So of course, you're the only one who knows how to survive your situation. So now we come to the theme of re-emerging into life. Like I said, this is not a race, and this is how you're doing this the best way you can do it. The first rule of life, and that's not just for now, is you have a right to protect yourself. If this means for you wearing a mask and gloves when you leave the house, or not wanting to leave the house, that is okay. If protecting yourself means you don't want any physical contact, that is also okay. I found that people are not sure with the physical contact in terms of should we hug or should we not, should we touch, should we not touch. And there's this bit of uncomfortable position where we're negotiating. And I also found that people are really respectful if someone says, actually, I don't want to touch. I prefer not being touched. So people are respectful of that. It is okay not to go out, or if touching is not okay, provided this is COVID related, not avoidance of life. So the isolation needs to be because of protecting yourself from the virus, because you have low immunity or whatever the reasons are, not because you prefer this life and want to avoid life. This is your preference. Protection is about safety, and it makes us feel good about ourselves when we engage in protective behaviors. Avoidance is fear-based, and it makes us feel insecure about ourselves. And consenting to do something like hugging, if you're not a huggy, touchy person, makes my body feel wrong. I cringe, and it makes me feel uncomfortable and bad because I betrayed myself. So this is starting to know what works for you, what's right for you. Sometimes it's difficult to know if we're doing something because of genuine protection, like staying at home, or avoidance. The key to figuring this out is learning how to listen to your heart. When we're being avoidant, we make excuses. And we know when we're lying to ourselves. We know we made this story up as to why I can't help you or why I don't want to do this. I remember when I did my first silent retreat, I was terrified of the silence. So sitting outside the retreat center, I phoned my mother and I phoned my brother, both of whom I knew would tell me to go ahead with the retreat. I didn't phone my father because he would say, well, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. He would give me permission to back out. But yeah, I needed that, oh, they made me do it, okay. Because, yeah, I struggled to take that step on my own. So I reached out for support. So it's knowing where your support is, knowing what you need. And like the saying over the last 9 weeks has been, is be kind. And this is be kind to yourself. Gently support and encourage yourself to be honest with yourself, to know why you're doing what you're doing. This is an inquiry, this is an investigation, this is not hard facts. This is just becoming curious. Ooh, why do I do that? Why do I do that? Is that avoidance or is that fear? The second rule is it's always easier to do something slowly and build up confidence than to jump in the deep end. I was initially unsure if I wanted to get back to work or get back into the real world. Like some of my colleagues, I thought about continuing with telehealth because we're still allowed to do it. But the adult in me knew that that was just avoidance. And I felt like I was throwing a little tantrum because going back to the office means I have to wear shoes again, I have to wear my work clothes, I have to drive into town, and it's going to be cold and wet and raining, and then walk in the weather, and then come home when it's dark and cold. It was all the stuff of like, oh, I could just stay at home and be nice, warm and cozy. But that was the excuse. That was just me throwing a tantrum. So I was kind to myself. What I did is, rather than going back to work to the office on Thursday, when level 2 started, I went back to the office on Tuesday. On Thursday, I had a haircut, and I had some shopping. I did some shopping. On Friday, I started going back to the gym. And just testing the social thing on small levels and going, ooh, how comfortable do I feel? Do I feel comfortable touching these people who I haven't seen for a long time? And I'm not sure what they've done, whether they've maintained their bubbles or not. Should I hug them? Should I not? So the Friday was a bit of testing that out. Saturday, I stayed at home, most of it. And by Sunday, I thought, okay, now I'm ready to mix with people. So went to visit some friends, hugged my friends at the gym. And it was that slowly allowing myself to come out and trust the world, trust that I'm safe, trust that people respect my space. So go at your pace, whatever that means. And again, the message is be kind to yourself. Many people have told me that they're taking this whole COVID thing or just life stresses one step at a time. Or some of them are even saying just one moment at a time. That's all we can do, actually. We can only do life at one moment at a time. We can't do it more than that. So why try to? For other people, they were happy to jump into level 2 from the minute it started, or 8 o'clock as soon as they couldn't wait, and they just jumped in. Good on you if you're one of those people who was just ready to jump in, boots and all. That fits with your personality, that fits with who you are. So good on you for knowing yourself, for knowing what you needed. The next thing is about reevaluating this reality. What does this reality look like for you? For all of us, this is a completely new reality. There's the hygiene requirements of using hand sanitizer every building you enter, and every shop you enter, every place you enter. I've never used so much hand sanitizer in my life as I've used in the last week. Then we have the whole signing and tracking, contact tracing, all of that stuff. So it's quite a different world just physically that we're entering. There may be things at work that's different for you, things that you should be doing or shouldn't be doing or have to change how you do things. So it's adjusting to the difference. It's not just work as usual, even though on some level it is work as usual. And then there's the weekends. What does that look like? There's also the routine change. like I said, I was initially reluctant to change my casual lockdown routine to back to working routine. This meant that I had to get up earlier. I had to be more organized with lunch, so that I actually had lunch rather than just make something up because I was at home. For me, the process is about finding the balance between the two worlds that we've been living in, our pre-lockdown world and our lockdown world. What did I like of that world, and what did I like of the other world? How do I merge the two worlds together? Because there's stuff that I want to keep from what I've learned in lockdown or what I liked in lockdown. And there's stuff that I liked about my pre-lockdown life, my life as usual. So how do I marry the two worlds? And despite best intentions, all habits die hard. As soon as we get back to whatever our previous normal is, many of us just jump back into that world and fall back into the old patterns that we had back then. So one of the things I liked about lockdown was that I was cooking healthy meals for myself. I have a whole lot of intolerances, and it was lovely because I could cook exactly what my body liked. With going back to the office, all of a sudden I'm having lunch meetings with this one and coffee meetings with that one, and I was like, oh, okay, now I'm eating foods that my body really does not like. So it's how do I marry the two worlds, because I still want to engage with people, I still want to go out, I still want to do all that, and I want to look after me. So it's kind of reaching a compromise with myself of maybe once a week I'll meet friends. Once a week I'll have lunch dates. And the rest of the time I'll eat home-cooked food. This is not a hard and fast rule for everyone. It's what works for you. This is an inquiry of your life. And again, be kind to yourself. As you learn this new way of being, and this is about building a life that you want, not accidentally falling into habits or falling into ways of being just because that's what everyone's doing or that's what I've always done. This is a brilliant opportunity to just reevaluate. The next one is stop the dramas of the running. With the change from level 3 to level 2, I suddenly found my mind racing. Oh, I've got so much to do. I must remember to do this. I need to. There's no time to run, do. And it was like, whoa, where did this come from? Until now, I've been peaceful, more sedate, more relaxed. So for me, this challenge of my running mind was really bringing my mindfulness practice back into my everyday life. And it was recognizing that I'm creating my stress. There's no situation creating the stress. I'm mentally creating my distress, tensing my body, for really no reason at all, just because of something that my mind created, an illusion that there's no time and I need to do all these things so quickly and whatever. That's all created by my mind. So when I found my mind going crazy, I did the basic mindfulness practice of reminding myself that for now, all I needed to do was just drive. This was obviously in the car. And it was just that idea of going, wait, the only demand on me at this moment is to drive. That's all I need to do. Physically, that's all I need to do is drive. And instantly my shoulders dropped. Instantly I felt more relaxed because, I can do this one thing. I can drive, no problem. And yeah, my mind settled down a bit. So it's doing those kind of mental exercises, mindfulness practices to bring us back into the moment. Keep reminding ourselves of, at this moment, the only thing I need to do is talk. That's the only demand at the moment, at this moment in my life, is connecting with you. Whatever you're doing, that's the only thing you need to be doing at this moment. And if we do that, we stop the stresses, we stop the mind from rushing around crazy. During the lockdown, I enjoyed the slower pace of life. I just felt like I had all the time in the world to do whatever I wanted. There was no demands on me. Yes, I was still working from home, but I don't know, it just felt a lot easier with less demands. And this is what I also want to reintegrate into my new world. A more slower pace of life. And slower pace doesn't mean I'm doing less. It just means that mentally I'm not distressed. I'm still being as busy as I was. I'm still being as interactive as I was without the mental distress that accompanies the thought process of, oh my God, I have to do this, I have to do this. The Alice in Wonderland bunny running around, rabbit running around. The other thing many people have told me is the idea of going for a walk. They love the idea of just being able to step outside in the garden or go for a walk while working. In between meetings or in between doing something, they just have their cuppa outside or go for a walk or do some gardening. And that is so essential for mental well-being. It's an idea of breaking up our physical environment, especially if we're working indoors, because this environment can become a cage. Like I've said in previous talks, is the idea of many people are metaphorically working in a sweatshop, because you come to work at whatever time you start, and you're locked in to work until you leave. You're not allowed to step out. And that's what happens in sweatshops. They lock you in the building. We're not actually locked in. We just keep ourselves locked in. We pretend we're locked in. So the idea of leaving the building and going for a walk or just standing outside or having a cup or doing whatever for you is outside helps break our mental gridlock that we get ourselves into. But also it's that idea of really being aware mindfulness. Especially now with winter approaching, and that you stand outside, you feel the cold air on your face. You can feel alive. You're connecting with, if it's raining, you're connecting with the senses, you're connecting with nature. If you're fortunate enough to work near greenery, nature really helps resettle us. And then when you come back into work, you're more refreshed, you're more engaged, energized. And the last point is practicing work distancing. So we all know about social distancing. There was a whole new word that we all learned about. Work distancing is that idea of being able to separate your work life from your home life. For some of us, it felt like going back into work was just overwhelming in terms of work is so big, so demanding, so overwhelming. It's like, oh my God, run. Work distancing means that idea of creating a mental space between work and home. If you're working from home, this is a lot harder to do because literally your workspace is at home. So it's finding ways to create a separation between work and home. And that's simply by, if you can, put the computer away after hours or on the weekends or Friday night. Cover your work desk with something pretty. If you got a spare room in your house, work in there. And close the door when you finish, and that's it. Work's closed. For those that are going into work, and especially if you're driving into work, it's about creating what I call a psychological marker or mental marker. And as you're driving, especially if you're driving Napier to Hastings or if you pass a bridge, I love bridges for this reason. One side of the bridge is your work side, one side of the bridge is your home side. So as you leave work and you come to the bridge, mentally put your work bag down at the bridge. Then cross the no man's land. And when you reach the other end, you pick up your home bag. And you do the same thing in the morning. What that means is that as I reach that point, I stop talking about work. I stop thinking about work. I'm now out of the office. I'm now out of work. I'm now transitioning into home life. I pick up my home bag, and home stuff matters. If you need to talk to your partner, and work is a big part of our life, so of course we need to talk to our partners about our day, talk about it. But not the whole night. Half an hour is more than enough to have a debrief about how was your day? What did you do? So it's becoming aware of how much time and energy we give work. And for many people, they said what they loved about lockdown was the quality of time with family, with their loved ones. Please, 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 do not go back to ignoring these people who you love so much. Please practice work separation so that when you come home, you can be there with them. When you come home, you can connect with them. You're present. Don't lose the gains that you've made over lockdown and level 2. It's be a parent, be a partner, be a whatever you are. Just be at home. For that to happen, we need that work separation. We need to recognize how much mental energy work takes and being able to go, talk to me tomorrow. So treat your mind as an admin person, just going, yeah, thanks for that reminder, but that's work. Remind me tomorrow when I pick up my bag. So that's work distancing. So thank you for listening. So just a summary of getting back to reality. The first thing is that you survive lockdown. The second is that you have a right to protect yourself. This is about knowing the difference between protection and avoidance, not using avoidance, not using protection as a form of avoidance. Start where you are and start where it's easy. Reevaluate your reality. What does this version of life or reality look like for you? Stop the dramas or the running mentality. Go for a walk, break the space, give yourself a breather. And lastly, practice work distancing. Thank you for listening. My name is Bhavna. If you want to contact me, all my details are available on my website, which is alivepsych.co.nz, psych as in psychology, alivepsych.co.nz. Thank you.